between San Antonio mayoral runoff candidates Gina Ortiz Jones and Rolando Pablos. I see we have a lively crowd. I'm Angie Mock. I'm the CEO and publisher of the San Antonio Report, and along with the Greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, we are so delighted to be able to have you all at this very important event this evening. We thank our many sponsors, especially USAA, who provided the presenting sponsorship for tonight, and also Stable Hall for this amazing venue. This is a historic election for our city. It's the first time a San Antonio mayor and council will serve 4 years. It's also the first time in a long time that our next mayor will not have served on the San Antonio City Council. The San Antonio Report has been working so very hard to deliver election coverage, events like these, and results. And we do this work because at the very core of our mission is civic engagement. And it's just part of our DNA. We're delighted to do that work. So I need to ask all of you for a favor. So we want to hear from the candidates, right? And that's how we want to spend our evening. So I'm going to make a special request tonight, which is not very debate oriented, but it will really help us hear from the candidates. And that is, I ask you for only 2 times for us to have applause. At the beginning, after the candidates introduce themselves, and at the end, after they make their closing statements. So by bookending this with applause, our moderators will be able to get you the most and best content that you are all here to hear. And so any other disruption, which I don't think this crowd's going to be disruptive at all, but if by chance there's some disruption, we'll just kindly ask you to leave. Just want to be clear. Sometimes they even make me be the bouncer. That's a lot of fun. I know you, our moderators tonight, are our government and politics reporter, Andrea Drush, and our editor-in-chief, Lee Munsell. Yeah, give them all the applause all the time you want. I know you know Andrea's byline really well. She's been doing some of the most impactful coverage of this race, of these city elections, for almost a year. And tonight is a dream come true for our editor, Lee Munsell, who moved here from DC. She came here from Washington to do, for just sort of this kind of moment, to deliver the essential resources for San Antonians and local elections. Tonight is a culmination of a lot of really hard work by the report and our amazing partner, the Greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. So with that, Andrea, I'll hand it over to you.
Wow, the city should be so proud of filling one of our premier concert venues for a mayoral debate. San Antonio is at a turning point. By next month, we will have a new mayor, a city council filled with new faces, and all kinds of new projects on the horizon. But we haven't gotten rid of San Antonio's familiar challenges. Poverty, a lack of well-paying jobs with upward mobility, low educational attainment, rising housing costs, and homelessness, to name a few. Our guests tonight, Gina Ortiz Jones and Rolando Pablos, beat out 25 other candidates to make this stage, including many with long resumes in city government. Both of them would bring completely different experience than we've seen at City Hall in recent years. Ms. Jones is an Air Force veteran who served as Democrats' nominee in 2 races for one of the most competitive and expensive congressional seats in the country. She went on to serve as the Undersecretary of the Air Force under the Biden administration, and most recently ran a political action committee aimed at unseating Republican state Supreme Court justices. Mr. Pablos is an attorney who ran an economic development group aimed at fostering business relationships between South Texas and Mexico. Texas Republican leaders have appointed him to multiple statewide roles, including Texas Secretary of State, and he recently founded a think tank to advise on city policy in San Antonio.
Thank you. Let's hear it for both of our candidates for being here. I appreciate your enthusiasm. That's really the last time we should hear from you tonight. In the interest of time and letting the candidates make their case on a wide variety of topics. Now, you've been talking to a lot of rooms across the city, some like this, some not. Since coming in at 27% of the vote, Ms. Jones, and 17% Mr. Pablos on May 3rd. But tonight we're hoping to dig a little bit deeper on how each of you would approach the many challenges the city faces, both persistent and new. We're going to kick off tonight's debate with a 1 minute and 30-second opening statement from each candidate. From there, when the either moderator, asks you a question, you'll have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond. If one of us asks a follow-up question, you will have 1 minute to respond. Or if a rebuttal is needed, you'll get 1 minute awarded at our discretion. And again, another note for the crowd, this debate is exactly 1 hour, so please do not disrupt so we can focus on the candidates and their cases. Let's get started. Ms. Jones, you won the coin flip in the back, so go ahead and start us off with your opening statement.
And just to be clear, that is the time right there?
That is the clock right there, yes.
Got it, all right. Well, my thanks again to the host, and thank you all for making time today. We do have an opportunity over the next 4 years. Your opportunity is to have a mayor that's going to be focused on serving everybody. I'm committed to be a mayor for all. My life story has been about those opportunities and making sure now I am paying those forward to the city that allowed me to grow up healthy, get an education, and serve our country. I grew up on the far west side of town. I went to John Jay High School. A 4-year Air Force ROTC scholarship took me from John Jay to Boston University. And I was honored, I have been honored to serve our country in a number of ways. Iraq War veteran, Air Force veteran, and yes, most recently as the 27th Undersecretary of the Air Force. I look forward to bringing my record of leadership and delivering results in service to our community. I managed a $173 billion budget, led 600,000 people, and was also focused on making sure everybody could serve to their full potential. 2 questions I ask myself every single day. 1, do my folks have what they need to be successful? And 2, are we making smart investments? Those are fundamentally the same questions we need to be asking of the next mayor, and I look forward to doing that. I've also on my website shared the things I want to work on in the first 100 days. Even if we had a different president, a different governor, many of our challenges would be the same. So I've laid out the things I want to work on, look forward to doing that in concert with the rest of the city council and making sure our city is well led, and I'd be focused again on being a mayor for all of us.
Thank you. Mr. Pablos, your turn.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, this beautiful venue. You know, I took part in envisioning the Pearl, and we didn't know what was going to happen in this building, and I'm so glad that it is what it is today. You know, I'm glad to see so many good friends from the business community here today. I've been part of this business community for 25 years. My involvement in this community is long, and it's beyond reproach. I am so happy to tell you that I've been a part of this greater chamber for many years. I still remember the day when Joe Cryer called me to invite me to serve on the board of directors, and for a young executive, that was the greatest thing that could have happened. I've been here for 40 years. I'm a UTSA grad and a St. Mary's grad. Laura and I have built our family here. We've started our businesses here, and we want to retire here. But let me tell you, we're worried. We've got some strong headwinds. We've got a situation where we are going to go into uncharted territory because of this economic uncertainty. And so the choice is yours. This is our time of choosing. You can get to decide who you want to lead this community during these choppy waters, through these choppy waters. We have to make sure that we select the right leader. So you can choose a career bureaucrat or a job creator. You can choose someone who sees government through the lens of, who sees things through the lens of government, and not someone who is able to create jobs, who has the experience. So I'll tell you here right now, the next mayor needs to have the integrity, the character, the experience, also the qualifications and relationships to be able to take us safely through this journey. And that is me. I'm ready, willing, and able to be your next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Past city leaders have tried to limit the influence of money in San Antonio elections, but in this race, you two were among the highest spenders in a field of 27 candidates, coming close to $500,000 spent in the first round each. We still haven't seen the runoff financial reports also. You are also backed by PAC money from party leaders who see big potential in you and in San Antonio. Most notably, Mr. Pablos, you had the backing of the Texas Economic Fund, run by Governor Greg Abbott's former political director, and Ms. Jones from the Fields of Change PAC, run by a national Democratic figure. Both of these groups have the stated goal of building a bench of future talent for higher office. PACs aren't legally allowed to coordinate with the candidates and campaigns that they're supporting, but many San Antonio voters rightfully question what exactly all these big checks from out of town are paying for. How do you think about your donors and what their support means in this race? And why should San Antonio voters trust that you work for the people, not special interests? Ms. Jones.
When we think about what's at stake, I think there are lots of eyes on what is happening here in San Antonio. And yes, they are rightly fearful of having this city run by a Greg Abbott puppet. When they look at what that means for our public education system, I'm a proud product of all Title I schools. Adams Hill Elementary School, Pease Middle School, John Jay High School. It is that Title I public education system that allowed me to earn a 4-year Air Force ROTC scholarship to go on and serve our country. I was able to grow up healthy, again, because of the ways in which, yes, government served me. And so when people are looking at this race, they're very concerned about somebody who's used their time in public service to allow for things like voter intimidation, to allow for things like jacking up utility rates on seniors during the storm. I think when they look at our records, I would be focused on serving our entire city, making sure that we are Military City USA, investing in the foundations that keep our economy strong moving forward. And I'm proud of the ways in which people have seen how I have delivered, how when I've had the opportunity to lead, how I have served, and made sure that we were focused on the things that support the entire institution, not a select few. Greg Abbott is not necessarily known for supporting independent thinkers, now is he? Okay, so he appointed Rolando to a very high position, and now it's time for Rolando to pay back.
Mr. Pablos, your turn. Why should people trust you?
So I'll tell you right now, 90% of the people who donated to my campaign are friends and family. 90% of the people who donated to Gina's campaign are from Washington, D.C. She has spent $13 million in this community running for office. And so I ask you, Gina, where have you been getting this money? Who's been giving you this money? Talk about being a puppet. You're a puppet of Washington, D.C. You parachute into this community just to run for office. We hear that you don't even live here. So if there's anyone here that is a carpetbagger that's coming into this community to run for office under somebody else's direction, it's not me. And I'll tell you, I have a proven track record of working for this community. Gina has never done anything for this community. I have posted my resume online, and I've asked Gina to do the same. Would you hire anybody without looking at their resume? So look, I've worked in nonprofits. I have helped this community grow, and I have been here. This is home for me. So to insinuate that I'm being directed by someone, I direct you to Gina because her interests are being led by Washington, D.C., and she is a Washington, D.C. insider coming to our community to change the way we live here.
Okay, we've gotten started.
I'm gonna rebuttal,
Well,
right?
I'm gonna follow up really quick. We wanted to drill to the idea behind this question, which is your accountability, not your opponent's accountability. Outside money is a big reason you two are here, and not any of the candidates that you faced in May. So could you use another minute, Ms. Jones, to speak to why the support has come in for you?
I am proud of the way in which I have faithfully upheld my oath to support and defend the Constitution in all of my public service. I'm sorry I couldn't hang out with you, Rolando, all those years. Somebody had to go to Iraq, and I'm proud of my service. I think it's really important that when we're looking at, who do we trust the community with, who doesn't trust you? Phil Hardberger. That's why he is endorsing me. Julian Castro endorsing me. How many state senators are endorsing me? Both of them, right? Numerous state reps. I'm also proudly endorsed by those that are fighting for working families, unions, teachers, those that understand what is at stake here if you would just be here beholden to Greg Abbott's agenda. So I am proud of the support that I have. I do not shy away in any way from my service to our country.
16% of our population is either active duty or a veteran. I will proudly lead Military City USA with integrity, make sure our veterans are well served, and I cannot say the same for you if you don't even know the importance of service and sacrifice in this community.
Mr. Pablos, one more minute. Please can you speak to what donors are seeing in you?
Yeah, I didn't hear the answer, but look, you're the last person that
I'm an
needs to
Iraq
be,
War veteran, that's the answer.
you're the last person that needs to be talking about trust and integrity. So let's start with that. You come into this community every time you see the opportunity to run for office. I have been in this community. I have given back to this community multiple times. And so the support that I'm getting from my friends and family only says this, is that they believe in me. They believe in my message. They believe that I will come into this community and work hard for it, especially during these difficult economic times. They understand my background in economic development, in business, and in government. We have a one-dimensional candidate here who sees everything through the lens of government. That's all she understands. And the people that are supporting her are the same people from Washington, D.C. that want to see the same agenda being perpetrated by Gina Jones.
It's Gina Ortiz Jones. Get it right.
In San Antonio, both our water and energy utilities are city-owned, a relatively unusual setup in Texas. Having enough affordable energy and water is obviously important to both residents and businesses. At the same time, many San Antonians care deeply about putting the city on a sustainable path. And city leaders even adopted a local climate action plan in 2019. As mayor, you'll represent San Antonians on the CPS Energy Board. We're curious about your vision for the city's energy generation platform. Would you seek to change CPS Energy's sustainability plans, including phasing out its aging coal plants and growing its natural gas and renewable portfolio? Start with you, Mr. Pablos.
So I'm the only candidate on this stage that understands utilities. Gina will tell you that when I was on the Public Utility Commission, we raised the price cap. Gina, I'd like to ask you to please explain to us what the price cap means.
It means that because of your actions, a 67-year-old Army veteran got a $16,000 bill due to Storm Uri. That's what that means. That's what I know. What do you know? As a result of your actions, actually, because the Utility Commission saw so many people suffering, they brought down the cap. It went from 3 to 9 under your watch, your vote. Because so many people suffered, that same Utility Commission brought it down to 5. So it's not just about the technical rules of it, it's how people suffer under you and how the city would suffer under you if you were on the CPS board.
You're embarrassing yourself, Gina. You don't understand the way the ERCOT wholesale electricity market works. I do. And I'm willing to sit down with CPS Energy and SAWS and work through the issues that they have. We have tremendous issues in SAWS. We have challenges with infrastructure. In CPS, we need more transmission. And I've worked in building transmission. When I was on the Utility Commission, we built the CREZ lines out into West Texas to promote more renewable energy. And I was the only commissioner on the commission that promoted renewable energy. CPS has done a tremendous job. But we have to be able to work together to ensure that our electricity is reliable and it's affordable, and the same thing for our water.
Ms. Jones?
Yeah. I think we can do a couple things at the same time. I think we can focus on working on the utilities to make sure we have more shovel-ready sites so that we can bring businesses to San Antonio. I think we can also make sure that our transition is cognizant of the fact that one of the main reasons kids in our community miss school is because of asthma. Right, so we have to think, I think, not only about the cost, the transmission, but also what are the costs of not moving smartly toward the best kinds of energy needs in our community. So I think as we also look at the rate of population growth in our community, we have to look at the ways in which we're securing our water supply. So I think we do all of this in the aggregate, cognizant again of keeping price low for the people that live here, making sure we are a competitive environment for as many. You know, I just sat down with a couple of business leaders, and one of the real challenges is the cost of doing business here is uniquely higher because of the utility costs. So I think we've got to be competitive in terms of who we're able to bring here, as well as making sure that we're not needlessly pricing people out based on those activities. So those are the things I think I would balance all at the same time.
A couple of follow-ups here. Mr. Pablos, you have experience on the Public Utility Commission in a state where oil and gas is king. You also recently set up a think tank to advise on CPS energy policy. You obviously see room for change at what they're doing over there. Give us your take on, in your professional opinion, what needs to change at CPS Energy.
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to focus on making sure that CPS Energy has the tools that they need to make sure that they deliver the services to us and do so in an affordable way. We need to double down on renewable energy, there's no doubt. We need to make sure that these generation plants that we have out there are efficient. We have to get rid of coal altogether, in my mind. We also have to focus on micronuclear. I think that micronuclear is the solution, because what's happening here right now is, from an economic development perspective, companies that come here aren't able to get the electricity services they need at the rate that they need them. So we have to work so that we can deliver those services, so we can attract businesses here. We don't want them to go anywhere else. And I want to work with Rudy Garza to make sure that we have that, because it's an economic development tool that we need in order to be able to bring quality jobs to San Antonio.
Ms. Jones, you speak often of the need to prioritize energy affordability and reliability. There are those in Texas who believe that we in San Antonio have no business shutting down coal plants when incidents like Winter Storm Uri aren't far in the rearview mirror. In your mind, can sustainability efforts be justified if they take capacity generation off the board?
Oh, I mean, sustainability is so critical when it comes to adaptation, resilience, and mitigation. These are investments we have to make. And again, this is a conversation we have to have with the people, especially, frankly, in opportunities, the upcoming bond. There is a cost to not doing these things. Again, as I just mentioned, with some of the public health consequences of not addressing these things as aggressively as we can. So look, I think when we also are looking at these economic incentive packages, it's really important that we have a smart climate action and adaptation plan, and one that actually has metrics. So that when we are making investments either in public health or we're structuring these economic incentive deals for companies to come here, they are clear about where we are moving, how they are going to help us meet those goals. And yes, you know, if you're working on carbon capture, please come to San Antonio. Please, those are the types of things. Again, a really smart plan with metrics can help us drive and help us achieve all of our goals, from public health to economic development.
Another thing that voters are very curious about is each of your relationships with state leaders, though for very different reasons. So we're going to split these two up. I'll start with Ms. Jones. Some voters are wondering whether your more adversarial approach to Republicans in state and national government will be too political or could harm San Antonio's prospects or end up landing the city in legal battles that can be costly. How do you respond to those concerns?
It's not adversarial. I mean, numbers, math, facts, those are not political statements. The math is the math, right? When we look at 2022 being the first year in 15 years that we saw an increase in teenage pregnancy in our state, and that's because of the abortion ban, that's not a political statement, that is a fact. It's also an economic issue. If you look in our community at a map where kids are not reading at level, their math skills are not at level, guess where you're also seeing increases in teenage pregnancy? So these are economic issues. I'm also very concerned, as we're all reading these headlines, about OBGYNs. They don't want to train in Texas. They don't want to come to Texas. You know who that also hurts? Future businesses willing to come here. If you look at City X and their doctor to ratio was 1 to X, and you look at San Antonio, it's 1 to 2X, that is not something that, again, makes us competitive. We actually saw this pretty immediately at the Department of the Air Force as well. It's not just do you have enough runway, do you have enough space, it's are people going to be happy there? What is their quality of life there? So these are all factors I think we need to consider. We'll work together. You know, the fund, the little piggy bank that the governor has to bring corporations to Texas, happy to work on that to make sure that we continue to rise up the ranks. San Antonio right now, we're the 21st largest manufacturing exporting region in the country. I just had a good briefing with Toyota and their expansion plans. That's all very exciting. So look forward to working with our state partners to realize that, as well as how we can really also tap into the talent we already have here to realize the cyber command that the governor wants to work on. So these are opportunities, but I think you also have to speak truth to power when those actions, when there are actions that are actually constraining our ability to grow the way we need to, and that in particular, healthcare.
Mr. Pablos, similarly, voters are wondering whether your closer ties with state leaders will mean you won't stand your ground when challenged. In the past, San Antonio has joined other cities to sue to stop state policies that infringe on local control. Is that something you could see still happening under a Mayor Pablos?
Make no mistake, I will represent the people of San Antonio, not Austin, not Governor Abbott, not any of those individuals in that capital. I will go up there and fight for you. But going back to the relationship issue, we have excellent relationships, not only at the county, at the state, at the federal level, and in Mexico City, and I do intend to leverage those. Because you know what's happening? The mayors of Dallas and Houston and Austin, even though they're Democrats, they have excellent relationships with our governor. And guess what? They're up in Austin right now lobbying for public funds to go to their cities, and we're missing out on that. The fact that we've had an adversarial relationship with our governor and even our federal officials has hurt us. We need to stop all the fighting. We need to come together as a community. You need a leader. You need a diplomat, a statesman that can go to Austin and represent you. Make the case for you. Get a meeting, because I will get an audience with all of those individuals. And I've worked across the aisle with our Bexar County delegation. I know them all. I can work with all of them. I've proven myself. And the individuals that are running the other cities, they worked at the Capitol like me. They know where all the money is. They have the relationships. And that's why it's so important to have those relationships. And they have to be strong relationships, long-time relationships, not just showing up to meetings at Toyota and saying hello. I have deep relationships not only in this community, but in Austin, Washington, and Mexico City.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to say a quick little follow-up here for Ms. Jones. How do you choose your battles when there are so many issues where San Antonians are at odds with state leaders, and there's lots of pressure from activists who want city leaders to do something about it?
Well, I just want to be very clear. We've been asked a couple of times now what our views are on the way in which the state has been working actively to curb local control. We were just at a forum yesterday with Cops Metro. He was asked this question. He said, no, I oppose that. When we were asked that same question by the San Antonio Express News, he said he wholeheartedly supported what Governor Abbott was doing and the state legislature was doing here. So that is the thing. When he talks about his relationships and he talks about his proximity to power, it comes at an expense, right? It depends on who he's talking to, what he's going to share. And let's be clear. Let's look at, again, his record when he's had the opportunity to serve people, and who has he served? Himself. That's come on the backs of voters. That's resulted in, again, lawsuits to our state as a result of those actions. So I think it's really important to your overall question of how to prioritize. I'm going to think about what's in the best interest of our city. And I'm not going to, though, sell out the most vulnerable. I think we can do both of those things at the same time. We can look at data and talk about how we can move forward together, which is why, again, I'm so focused on being a mayor for all.
I'd like to.
Mr. Pablos, I have a follow-up for you as well, which is, what do you say to San Antonians who disapprove of the direction the state is headed in? You'll have to represent a lot of them.
Well, let's make it clear here. The vast majority of the people here know me extremely well. I've worked with them for so many years. So for them hearing you say what you're saying about me, they know it's rubbish. Now, going to your question, I think it's important that we work with our state. The state of Texas is one of the best economies in the world. We have made Texas a very business-friendly state. We have to make sure we follow along and make San Antonio a business-friendly city. We have to work with them. Now, when you say that Texas is going in the wrong direction, well, we can cherry-pick many things, but I'll tell you what, our economy is booming in Texas. We have to make sure we have the same situation here in town. We have Dallas, Houston, and Austin recruiting companies that should be coming here. And guess what? They're poaching our talent. They're taking our children and grandchildren with them. And we're not able to get that benefit of those companies here. So our economy is not falling behind. We have a tremendous economy, and right now with these economic uncertain times, we have to make sure we focus on that.
May I respond to that?
We have to move on for tonight to the next question for timing.
San Antonio is where federal immigration policies hit the rocks in so many ways. Past mayors have had to contend with the fallout from both Republican and Democratic administrations' policies putting stress on our local community. To name a few, the influx of hundreds of thousands of asylum seekers arriving in San Antonio, one of the deadliest human smuggling tragedies in U.S. history, the Tren de Aragua gang arrests right here in San Antonio earlier this year, and perhaps most front of mind this election, the fear many residents are currently feeling about ICE deportations. Mayor Ron Nirenberg's guiding principle throughout these complicated situations has been that San Antonio doesn't get to set immigration policy, nor does it get to choose who comes across the border, but it should lead with compassion within the limits of the law. On an issue where you don't get to set the direction, how do you plan to serve a community grappling with these issues? Starting with Mr. Pablos.
So, back in 1976, my parents brought us here from Mexico. I am an immigrant. I'm a product of public school ESL. They brought us here for the same reason all immigrants come here, is to seek a better life. to get an education. And so I'm very sensitive to the immigration issue. I actually started my legal career as an immigration lawyer. So I've represented many immigrants, and I know their plight. But I also know that we're a country of laws. We have to be respectful of laws. Right now, we have a situation where a lot of people who are criminals who broke the law are getting deported. And also a lot of individuals who came here illegally, who have had their day in court and have been ordered deported, are getting deported. We have to be able to treat our immigrants with dignity, but let me tell you what, with the situation that we had with the Migrant Resource Center and all the money that was used here in San Antonio, we have to keep in mind that we have to take care of San Antonians first. And that's what I want to do. But that doesn't mean that we're going to be ugly to immigrants. They should have their due process. If they came here under asylum, they should have the ability to go in front of an officer or a judge and have their case heard. Now, the situation is that 90% get rejected. But look, make no mistake about it, we have to make sure that we get rid of criminal aliens immediately.
Ms. Jones?
Yeah. I'm a proud first-generation American. My mom came to this country. She graduated 40 years ago. She graduated from the #1 university in the Philippines. But she came here chasing the American dream. And that opportunity was to come here as a domestic helper. And she knew, even if I go to that country in that capacity, if I'm willing to work hard, the sky's the limit. And so when I think of immigration, I think of what our country, our example means for so many, and how it's important that we live up to our values as much as humanly possible because of what's at stake. I have been very clear that I do not think our local law enforcement should be used as ICE agents. Rolando Pablos refuses to answer that question. I want our local law enforcement focused on violent crimes and actually keeping us safe. I don't want them focused on going into churches. I don't want them focused on going into schools or going into other places where people are working and contributing to our economy. I think we are less safe when that is the instance. But again, he refuses to answer that question. I would be focused again on making sure people have the information so they can make good decisions to keep themselves safe. At the end of the day, though, our community is less safe when people are not able to call law enforcement, not able to send their kids to school, not able to go to work because of fear of what may happen. We are a country, we are a state, we are a city that is better than that. And I would be focused on ensuring we are keeping everybody in our community safe and treating them with dignity and with respect.
Mr. Pablos, you brought up the Migrant Resource Center. By the city's telling, that was a product of the business community wanting to saw the lines of migrants at the airport, the bus station, and at Travis Park, and saw it as a hindrance to commerce. How would you have done things differently?
So let me address the issue of sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities in Texas are illegal. Gina's own Sheriff Salazar, the person who has endorsed her, has come out publicly and said that he will work with ICE agents. So I don't know where the disconnect is between you all, but law enforcement has to work, local law enforcement has to work with federal officials. And that's it.
Okay, so let's be very clear. There's a difference
we have a
between...
follow-up for you
Wait a
as well.
second, you're interrupting. Please bear with me. You continue to break the rules. Bear with me, okay? So, am I right?
No.
So the situation is this, is that we have to make sure that we uphold the law. I am not going to be a mayor that breaks the law. We have to cooperate with our federal officials. Just ask our police chief. He's come out and said it too. So I am all for identifying criminal aliens and deporting them immediately. And that's what that rule does. It allows us to find out who is here illegally and who has broken the law so we can get rid of them.
Ms. Jones, we had a follow-up for you as well. What exactly are you suggesting here? Are you suggesting that local law enforcement not work with federal immigration officials? Texas law is a law saying that you have to do that, and the city was already sued over that recently.
So there is a difference between working with and then serving as ICE agents. That's very different. So I'm saying we follow the law and we understand the distinction. And frankly, we need to have our law enforcement focused on the violent crimes in our community. That is what I think is most important. I think it's also really important that folks are clear about who is showing up. If you're calling about a domestic violence incident, if you're calling about wage theft, you should know what would happen to you. And that's my concern with having police officers, local law enforcement that are not trained ICE agents being used in that capacity.
So how do I factor into that?
Answer the question, do you support using local law enforcement as ICE agents? I asked you 3 times in the other debate, you wouldn't answer.
We have to follow the rules.
I agree, we do. Oh, okay.
Okay, we'll ask questions.
Yeah, we'll move forward. A question that's important in this moment of the race, it is certainly a moment in the race. This is a nonpartisan office, but you each have partisan backgrounds. And we've heard you both addressing crowds of your respective partisan supporters, and you sound a little different in those rooms than you do in settings like this. We understand that this moment in politics requires motivating your base, but Mr. Pablos, Trumpian rhetoric, like omitting the Ortiz from your opponent's name, feels like a far cry from the collaborative spirit that San Antonio prides itself on, and that you've personally been calling for. Likewise, Ms. Jones, your opponent has a long record in this community before serving at the state level, but you have been calling him an Abbott puppet throughout this race. I want to ask you both, is this how you plan to lead once elected? Mr. Pablos.
No, look, everywhere I go, people tell me that Gina has been Gina Jones all her life. You look at her yearbook picture, you look at her service in the military, you look at all those interviews, and miraculously, the time that she chose to come and run for Congress, she has the name Ortiz. And look, that's what people have asked me to look into. And so I ask you, Gina, did you add your name Ortiz whenever you chose to run for Congress? Because it seems quite coincidental that you've done that. And look, you know, I've been Rolando Pablos all my life.
The question was, you still have some time, is this how you plan to lead once elected?
What I plan to do, and I've said this, is I plan to bring this community together, but here's the situation, is that I'm being asked about this, and we don't have an answer from Gina.
Ms. Jones, is this how you plan to lead once elected?
Look, I'm going to be focused on what voters care about. I am extremely, with all that is at stake in our community, and frankly, even some of Rolando's Republican colleagues trying to make it harder for women to vote because they changed their name. That is the cloth that he is cut from. I have been very clear. Look on my website the things that I'm focused on. Bringing down costs, making sure we've got more affordable housing that also looks at childcare and transportation, as well as making sure that we've got more transparency around some of these major investments. We should be very concerned, though, that somebody, that when you look at who Abbott has previously supported, again, if they're not on board with him, he gets them out of there. Like, ask Steve Allison, what's he up to these days, right? So look, Rolando, I think, has been he's tried to, say he'd be independent, but his record speaks for itself.
We have a lightning round planned for y'all. We're going to ask a series of questions that require short answers and then give candidates 1 minute each to elaborate. Please directly answer the question. Keep your answers short. And then if you don't have to elaborate at all if you don't want to, but if you choose to, keep it under a minute. So let's get started with our lightning round. As we speak, the city's 2026 budget survey is in the field asking local residents to rank in order of priority their top city services. Very quickly, I'll read the options that you have printed in front of you, and just like residents, we would like you to answer with your top 4, bearing in mind that budget cuts are coming this year since the city is faced with lower than expected property and sales tax revenue. Okay, the options are affordable housing, animal care services, code enforcement, domestic violence prevention, fire and emergency medical services, garbage and recycling services, homeless encampments and cleanups, services to assist the homeless, libraries, nuisance properties, parks and recreation, pedestrian safety or Vision Zero, police services, San Antonio Metro Health, senior services, sidewalks, small business support, street lighting, streets, youth services, and other. You guys feel ready?
You want us to identify 4, is that what you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
4.
In order.
Mr. Pablos, you go first.
Police and fire, we will not defund police and fire. We'll actually look to increase their budget. We have to look at affordable housing, animal care services, senior services. I mean, if I have 4 to choose, that's where I would focus.
Ms. Jones.
Yeah. I would focus on our first responders, so police and fire, I think affordable housing, and then I would focus on San Antonio Metro Health. When you look at the misinformation, disinformation happening at the federal level, and then the lack of willingness at the state level to collect that information that is needed to keep our community, one, healthy, safe, but also making sure we're making smart investments, we really need to make sure that that capacity is as robust as it can be.
While you have that list handy, city staff has said that there will need to be budget cuts in 2026, and I believe that you've both met with city staff to get up to speed on this issue. Looking at the city budget today, where's some low-hanging fruit where you think savings could be found, and where would you start with the cuts? Using those same buckets. Ms. Jones, would you like to go first?
Well, I'm going to look, we had a short discussion, and frankly, when we had that discussion, there were no numbers in front of me. So I'd like to look at the data before answering that. And I think that's what the people would expect and want to hear before any services were changed in their community.
Mr. Pablos?
Look at the data. Look at the data is government speak for I don't know what I'm going to do. So I will tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to call for an audit of all these departments to make sure that we can identify where the wasteful spending is and then take a look at it.
Just a reminder, there's a lot of questions to get to and not a lot of time left. So where are you finishing? Yeah.
So like any good executive coming into a job, and I've run 3 state agencies, the first thing I want to do is I want to get an assessment of where we are today. And I will look at everything, but I've already said we are not going to touch fire and police budgets whatsoever. They are off limits.
That sounds like looking at the data.
Limited time. I'm actively cutting questions. You don't want that. San Antonio is currently on a 5-year bond cycle that would set up the next major city bond election in 2027. Though a potential Project Marvel specific bond to finance a downtown Spurs arena this November has been discussed by city leaders. When would you support going out for another bond election, and what would it be focused on? Ms. Jones first.
Well, I would be focused first on the 27 bond and making sure that's adequate. I think if that one continues to grow at the rates the others have, that's a $1.92 billion bond. So part of that, I think, process would also be looking at how can we spend that bond money faster. This is a constant critique I hear from folks involved in that process. And what we want folks to do is see the impacts of the things that they voted for. I mean, right now we are still not at 90% complete of the projects that were approved in the 2017 bond, right? So I think we need to spend that money faster. I think it's also really important that this next bond, we are much more aggressive with affordable housing. 4,000 units in the 2022 bond is well short of where we need to be. You've got 95,000 folks housing insecure based on our own strategic housing implementation plan. You've got 67,000 folks that are on the wait list for Opportunity Home. So we have to be much more aggressive in meeting the housing crisis in our community, and that's where I would focus.
Each of you have had a side project in the past 2 years that we are curious about, starting with Ms. Jones. You started a political action committee called the Find Out PAC, aimed at unseating Texas's Republican Supreme Court justices, which even got some help from high-profile Democrats like Senator Elizabeth Warren. If elected, do you plan to hand off or fold that PAC, and do you worry that your work on this issue could paint a target on San Antonio when the city has cases before the state's high court?
Yeah, for those that aren't familiar with that, Find Out PAC is based on the very scientific concept of F around and find out. And what that was meant to do is to remind people that it actually wasn't Ken Paxton that told Kate Cox that she wasn't close enough to death to be able to get the health care that she should, that her doctor said was needed for her to survive. It was actually the Texas Supreme Court. And the Texas Supreme Court is as partisan as they come. And they said to her and her doctor, no, we don't think you use the right standard to determine whether or not she's close enough to death. Mind you, again, those judges, they're partisan, they're elected, they're not doctors, right? And so that was an effort to remind people, hey, you can also vote in this election, and we can do better than these 3 folks that are playing doctor from the bench. As an Air Force veteran and national security leader, it was also really important to highlight that, when we take steps like this, as a national security leader, other countries, when they look at our example, they look at our actions. Excuse me?
Finish the thought.
Yeah, they look at our
And-
actions, and it's really hard for the U.S. to lead on human rights, civil rights, women's rights, when all they have to say is look over your shoulder and say, I'm sorry, is that another woman that has bled out in your parking lot because she couldn't get health care? I'm sorry, is that another woman that almost
The
lost
question
her
part is,
fertility?
are you gonna
So
hand
that's
it
what
off
that
or hold
project
it?
was based on. It was, I mean, you could call it political, but one would call
We
it
gotta get you out there.
accountability.
The question was, would you hand off or fold the pack, and are you worried that you painted a target on San Antonio?
Hands it off, certainly, not worried about a target.
Mr. Pablos, you started a think tank to advise on city policy, citing the positive experiences that you've had working with statewide think tanks in your other roles. What is your plan for managing the think tank if you become mayor, and will you commit to disclosing its financial supporters even if it's not legally required?
Absolutely, because the financial support has come from me, but let me tell you this, we are the only major city without a nonpartisan, non-ideological think tank that will do research on policy. Our elected leaders, our policy makers here in town need a third-party validator to run research that is data-driven. Right now, we don't have that. Every other major city has that, and so I created Future First for that purpose, so that our elected leaders can go somewhere and ask for unbiased data. Because right now, particularly at City Hall, our city council members are getting the data from staff. And I'm not saying that that data is wrong, but it would be certainly nice that these individuals have another place to go. Every time I've served in office, I've gone to both right and left think tanks so that I can take that information and make up my own mind. Right now, San Antonio policymakers don't have that benefit, and that's why I created it. And yes, I've already separated myself from it, and going back to the funding, it's been me, baby.
Would you continue to commit to disclose those donors?
Of course.
It takes a certain amount of confidence, self-knowledge, and vision for a city to spur anyone to run for mayor, and both of you believe that you are the right leader at the right time. Neither of you come from a background of City Hall experience, but something about this moment in time has inspired you to get involved in local government and run for this all-consuming position, which pays $87,000 per year. We've heard you both talk at length about where you came from and how your backgrounds pushed you into public service. But the question we'd like to hear you answer tonight is, why do you want to be San Antonio's mayor now? What about this role and this city gets you excited? Mr. Pablos, take that one first.
Well, look, it's been said that I don't have any City Hall experience, but I want to push back on that because I've worked many years at City Hall representing my clients, helping them navigate the bureaucracy at City Hall. So I certainly understand City Hall, and I understand the frustrations of business when they go to City Hall. So I am not a novice when it comes to City Hall. The reason I'm running for office is this. Our city is falling behind. We're falling behind to other cities in Texas in the economy, in our education. We have had the same rate of poverty for 60 years. 18%, 1 out of every 5 people live in poverty. How is that fair? And that is really what's driving me. I am upset to see that we haven't been able to move the needle on poverty. And poverty is a root condition that drives all these problems that we have today, like crime, like neighborhood blight, like our public health issues. So why not tackle that issue? And I have a plan for eradicating poverty, and it involves aggressive job creation, aggressive economic development, quality education, and fiscal responsibility.
Ms. Jones, what gets you excited about this city right now?
I stay excited about San Antonio. I stay excited about my hometown, this community that raised me. It is a very special community where the graduate of Title I education can serve as the Undersecretary of the Air Force. That lived experience has always shaped my record of public service and ensuring that we are fully tapping into the talent wherever I'm leading. I think it's really important that our city, given the widespread poverty that Rolando just mentioned, in fact has somebody that understands the difference between, yes, business is booming, but poverty is still quite high. I am concerned that Rolando Pablos doesn't actually understand those things. He'll say he's a fiscal conservative and we're spending too much, but then he wants to sign us up to pay 50% of the Spurs' new arena. Make it make sense, right? I am focused on how do we make sure we're fully meeting the need of pre-K in our community? How do we make sure we're more aggressive about building affordable housing in our community? How do we make sure we've got more transparency around some of these projects? Again, when you look at his record, there's cause for concern there. My record has always been about uplifting people so people can serve to their full potential. Because government, I know what government has done for me, and government can do a lot of good in our community if it's led well.
All right, guys, that's all we have time for tonight. Candidates, it means so much to us that you are here tonight. We will be there every step of the way to cover one of your first administrations. Let's roll to closing statements. Rolando, Pablos, you're first.
Friends, we got to think big. Dallas, Austin, and Houston, they're thinking big. Even Corpus Christi and the Rio Grande Valley and El Paso. We have to make sure that we not only keep up with them, but we get ahead. We have everything that it takes in this community to become a global city. We just need experienced leadership. We need a mayor who can come in and apply his skill set to this beautiful city. We need someone who understands government, someone who understands business. Gina has never owned a business. She's never started a business. So how can she relate to all our business owners, especially our small business owners who are being frustrated every day by government? We have to make sure that we go out into the world and convince companies to bring high-paying jobs. That is the way we're going to be able to tackle this poverty situation. We have to be able to educate our children and our adults, upskill them so they can be competitive, so when we go out into this world and try to convince companies to come here, it'll be an easy sell. This is the time. This is our time for choosing. And I would like to be your mayor because I want to lend my services, my experience, to take the city in a different direction, in a new direction, in a prosperous direction. So please, go out and vote. Go grab your tias and tios and abuelos and abuelas and make sure that they get to the polls because this is about our future. And I'm ready, willing, and able to be your mayor, and I ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
Well, my thanks to our host again. One of my most formative experiences is when I showed up to Boston University, and I had to sign a piece of paper that said I will not engage in homosexual behavior, because don't ask, don't tell was the policy at the time. That experience showed me the importance of when you are in charge, always ask, have the humility to ask, who am I not hearing from, and why am I not hearing from them? You and I, if we drive through 15 minutes in either direction from here, it changes very, very quickly. And that is because we've had, I think, too many leaders listening to too small a part of our community and really focused on enriching a small group versus addressing the widespread poverty in our community. When you look at my website, I've got actions and plans to address these things that get at the core of how we can move our city forward and actually address these things. For me, they're not talking points. My record in public service has been about serving the Constitution, expanding opportunities, ensuring we've got, again, folks ready to meet the moment and serve to their full potential. Rolando didn't want to talk about his record as Secretary of State getting sued by civil rights groups because he would have allowed them to engage in voter intimidation, or being sued because he made it more hard for people to register to vote. Okay, his record in public service is very, very clear. It's about keeping people down. Mine has been about uplifting everyone, and that is how I would serve as your next mayor. Thank you.
Like this, it says a lot about your engagement in local elections that you're here. Thank you all, and thank you for being well behaved. We're not quite done though. We have a couple more speakers. Make sure you get out and vote in the June 7th election. It's not just the mayor's race on the ballot, but also 4 city council runoffs. We'll have runoff debates on Wednesday and Thursday this week, so come to those. To close our evening, I'm pleased to welcome to the stage Tom Troy, Chief Transformation Officer at USAA, our presenting sponsor for tonight's debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. What a dynamic and spirited conversation we've had tonight. Thank you very much. It's clear that leading San Antonio, our great city, into its next chapter will require both vision and strength. And I think we saw plenty of examples of that this evening, so thank you. Now, you know, being in public service is not for the faint of heart. It really takes a special kind of courage. And I think we saw that tonight. A special thank you to the candidates for sharing your ideas and, you know, stepping into the gap here for all of us to understand what your positions are. We really appreciate it. And your willingness to serve is commendable. Thank you. A special thanks to all of you who attended both in person this evening and online. We appreciate your interest in this election and your involvement in everything that has to do with San Antonio. Now, USAA is proud to serve as the presenting sponsor of tonight's debate. We were founded by 25 Army officers 103 years ago, just down the road here at the Gunter Hotel. Our commitment to San Antonio runs deep. As a company headquartered here for these 103 years, this is more than just a place where we do business. This is our home, and what happens here is important to us. We appreciate